you see the picture there, right? That's what every employer would like, right? Our employees to have multiple hands and can do many things at one time. So that's of course an ideal world, but not very realistic. So the question is, how can we, with their two hands, their 2 feet, their one body, their one brain, how can we maximize their performance, right? Especially in this day and age with hybrid work, right? I think you've all seen this as the world struggles to adapt to a new hybrid working model, struggling, right? Even just yesterday, we had 19 new community cases, infections, right? And then a new cluster in Bukit Merah. So, we're still struggling. It's not yet even back to the new normal, right? How does this affect how we manage performance in the workplace, especially if we can't see employees, right? How do you know that they are working, right? So just a quick show of hands, right? How many of you worry, right, that whether or not your employees are working, right, when you're not there, right? You just type out yes, me in the chat. How many? Can you see? Yes, yeah, quite a few of you I can see already. Okay, good. Yeah, so hopefully, right, through this webinar, we will help you to address some of this. It's actually, I can tell you, it won't be resolved in one day. I can be completely honest with you. But with some of these hopefully useful and simple tips, right, it will help you to manage your employees' performance easier and better and more effectively. Yeah, I can tell you that actually none of this, I know some brain surgeons and actually some rocket scientists. None of this is brain surgery. None of this is rocket science. They are all very simple to implement. Okay, and I will share with you. So yeah, the short answer is yes, and it's actually easier than you think. Okay, so the outline very quickly is why every definition of new normal that you have heard so far is wrong. Yeah, I can very confidently say that. Okay, and how to influence workers is actually not what you think or not what you traditionally think. Okay, and then I will share with you 6 keys to managing performance in a hybrid work environment. And then last, I will invite Mr. Stephen Chia. He's a managing director of Work Solutions with a presence in Singapore and Thailand, to do a panel discussion. And we invite some questions and hopefully answer some of those for you. Okay, sound good? Okay, so just a very quick background about myself. I am a principal consultant of Metelos Advisory. I am a management consulting previously with the Big Four, certified. 20 years I've been consulting companies, right? I have an interdisciplinary and a broad-based approach, but I focus and specialize in talent development, talent management, and leadership development and management. Okay, so I know what I'm talking about, and I've done work in many industries. Okay, so over here, just quick show of hands, right? How many of you actually think that there's a lot of room for improvement in terms of managing your employees? Yeah, yes. Yeah, okay. Okay, Belinda is saying yes. Steven is saying always. Mel is saying yes. Christopher is saying yes. Doris, Alicia. Yeah, so I know how you feel. I've been there, right? I know what it's like to find difficulty and challenges in managing or maximizing our performance, employees' performance. But I can tell you that there's actually a very simple way, right, which I will show you to address all that. Maybe let's start with a quick poll, right? Emmeline, can you show the poll question? How many of you, yes or no question, when you are not around, when the boss is not around, performance and productivity drops, right? Okay, so quick poll, right? Fill it in. So I'm going to carry on my presentation, and then later on, we'll see the results. This should be interesting, okay? Okay, so as you are filling in the poll, I'm going to continue with my presentation. It's going to be quite fast-paced, right? Because a lot of the concepts are actually quite simple and quite straightforward. But there are some key ones that I think I will spend a little bit more time on. Okay, so without further ado, what is employee performance? What are we actually talking about in the first place, right? Some definitions. Employee performance is defined as how an employee fulfills their job duties and executes their required tasks. Right? So very straightforward, but the problem is how do we measure that? Right? I think from even before the webinar, some of you have already posed questions. How do we measure exactly how much they're performing or how well their performance is? The key is it depends on what they are required to do in the first place. If you ask a manufacturing technician, right? His task and his job is going to be very different from a HR executive or administrative person in the office, right? The key is to be explicit and to define their tasks, right? Quite well and clearly so that you know, right, what they are expected to do. So the first part is getting the definition and the job analysis, right? Correct. Right. Then after that, you can determine effectiveness, quality, and efficiency of their output. Right. But some things can be measured a little bit more directly than others. Right. So some subjectivity, but they all boils down to how well are they doing their work. So you just have to ask that question. Okay. And of course, performance also contributes to our assessment of how valuable they are in our organization. Okay. So factors affecting employee performance, right? First, we have processes, tools, and equipment, opportunities for training and development, job satisfaction, engagement, goals and expectations, morale and company culture, and last but not least, in fact, most importantly, is leadership. All these, by the way, has been researched, right, and is evidence-based. So whatever I'm telling you today is not just based on my guesses, right? It's actually based on research that has been carried out, right, by people all around the world, right? Specialists who analyze organizational behavior and organizational development. So processes, tools, and equipments, opportunities for training and development, job satisfaction, engagement, goals and expectations, morale, and company culture and leadership. Okay, if you go, this is one of the key things. But we ask ourselves, just how important are things like engagement? I'm just hiring them to do a job. Why do I need to engage them? I come across this question, right, with a lot of my clients very often. And it actually has been found, has been tested and proven that engagement is very strongly correlated to performance, right? As you can see in this chart, employees that are highly engaged, right, tend to give better performance, right, in their organization compared to average performers in the organization. And these have, again, direct correlations to levels of customer satisfaction, quality of the product or service, in fact, sales revenue and growth, and the overall profitability of the business. So things like engagement, really, they may sound simple, but they are actually very, very important, right? I'm sure most of you already know, right? But the other thing is, these things, engagement, do you need to spend a lot of money on engaging employees? The answer is actually no. Very, very simply, right? It can be as simple as a pat on the back, right? How are you? Or in fact, even a smile, right? That is also engaging employees. You don't need to spend tons of money on a D&D, right? To give them this engagement events, right? But if you can do so, it will make it even more engaging. What I'm saying is, if you have the budget, if your budget allows, do it by all means. But even if you are a small company and you don't have the budget, right? Small forms, small gestures of engagement already will improve performance. Yeah. So some of these things actually are very, very easy to implement. They don't require a lot of effort, right? And I will share a little bit more about them. Okay. And then we ask ourselves, what are the most common reasons for employee performance? Maybe I ask again in the chat, what do you think, quickly, what do you think are the most common reasons for low employee performance? If you have any ideas, just type it out in the group chat. What do you think are the most common reasons for low employee performance? Lack of motivation, good. Low esteem, unclear direction, low morale, right? What else? Okay. Felt left out by management. Okay, no leadership. Fantastic. Actually, a lot of you, right, have hit a lot of the nails on the heads, right? So I'm going to go through some of these. First, but not most importantly, okay? First is inadequate technology, right? This is actually one of the simplest things, but not the most important, right? Inadequate technology, and I'll explain why later. Second is poor supervision or poor leadership, someone mentioned, right? Third one is lack of communication, right? Did anybody mention that? No. So communication is one very, very key and important thing, as I will show later. Fourth one is lack of trust, right? I don't think anybody brought that up, but it's very, in fact, this is coming to one of the most important reasons for low employee performance. Either we don't trust the employee, right? And the employee also doesn't trust us as the employers, right? So is this mutual lack of trust that actually affects a lot of other things, right? Lack of clarity around their roles and responsibilities, lack of motivation, right? We had one question, how do we motivate employees to have a positive mindset? And hopefully I'll touch on that a little bit later. Okay, lack of acknowledgement, right? Acknowledgement, engagement, even, hey, good job, right? These simple things actually improve performance. Acknowledgement for a job well done, even if it's just a simple task, motivates employees to give even more the next time, right? Makes sense. And last one, lack of skills, lack of training, lack of competency. So if we expect employee to perform well in a given task, we need to ensure, right, that they have the adequate training, skills, knowledge to be able to fulfill those tasks either adequately or even more successfully. Okay, so these are the top 8. And again, this is backed by research, right? From various, you look around the world, this is backed by research, most common reasons. So as long as you target and fix these things, right, you will already see an improvement in employee performance. And later I'll show you some tips and techniques on how to improve on each of these things. I think that is the key. We say, yeah, lack of communication. So communicate more. Exactly how to communicate more. Lack of clarity. Make it clearer how to make their roles and responsibilities clearer. Lack of trust. Trust more how to trust, right? And so how to supervise. So I will share with you some techniques later on. Okay, very quickly. Okay. Next definition. What is hybrid work? A lot of us know, okay, yeah, hybrid work today, WFH, right? Work from home, right? Or if not, then come to office. But there's a third working space, or what they call the third space. It can be a co-working space. It can be hot desking. It can even be a cafe if and when we open up to F&B restaurants again, right? Really now, I have clients, and even myself also, anywhere where I have my laptop and an internet connection, I could be on the beach, right? I could be working there, right? So it's really you can really work from anywhere in this day and age, right? Then the next one, we come to this new normal. I explained, right, that I was going to tell you why every definition of new normal is actually wrong. right? But first, we break down the two words. What is new? What is normal? What is normal first? Normal is basically status quo. If you look at any dictionary, normal is defined as the usual, typical, expected state or condition. That means if you have a time, right, axis and a condition axis, that condition stays the same across time. It's flat, it's unchanging, it's stable, that's normal. Okay, then what is new? New is having recently come into existence, right? That means something that didn't exist before is produced, introduced, discovered recently, or now for the first time, not existing before, right? Or it has existed before but seen, experienced, or acquired recently now or for the first time, right? And has this surprise, right? Because you never expected it. So that's something new. Then what is new normal? If you look at other definitions of new normal, if you look at a dictionary, a current situation, social custom, etc., that is different from what has been experienced or done before, but is expected to become usual or typical. The keyword here is usual. That means the keyword here is normal. As different from what was experienced before, but it's going to become normal, right? Or Wikipedia, a state to which an economy, society settles, right? Settles again, right? Stable after a crisis, whether the crisis was World War I, financial crisis, September 11 attacks, or 2008 to 12 global recession, or even pandemic, right? So the idea is it settles, right? Great, the World Economic Forum and EY, one of the big four, they call it the Great Reset. Reset, that means start again, right? Or Deloitte calls remote work is here to stay, right? But what they are misunderstanding here is that, or what they are trying to define new normal as is, there was a period of stability, there was a period of normal, there is a transition like now, COVID-19 or global recession, transition or change, and then it goes back and stabilizes. This is where the definition is wrong. This stability and this idea of normality, okay? The real new normal is condition in the past, change, there is a short period of stability, and then there's a change again. You see the difference, the key difference. The relative frequency of change, right? And the short periods of stability, if any. It could go from one change to the next, right? Without any period of stability. This is the new normal. Okay, and I want everybody, this is the first key thing that I want everybody to understand. This should be the definition of new normal. The new normal is that everything is increasingly volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And get used to it because it's here to stay. Okay, and that is the new normal. Right? What is volatility? Volatility is large magnitude and rate of change. From nothing, suddenly something erupt, right? That's large magnitude and speed of change. It's uncertain, right? Nobody in the world, you or I, will be able to predict with certainty, 100% certainty, the outcome of any situation. COVID-19 is one such example, right? Complexity, right? Everything is interconnected. It's difficult to understand, right? The whole picture, right? We can only roughly understand it, right? And because everything is interconnected, you change one thing, it leads to a multitude of changes everywhere else. Complexity. And the last one, ambiguity, right? Is it black? Is it white? Is it right or is it wrong? Is it yes or no? Everything is sort of gray and subjective, right? And increasingly so. So this is the new normal that we need to get used to, accept, and be able to operate it, right? And even this is not new, okay? Because it's been said before, it's not the strongest or the most intelligent who will survive. Which one will survive? Is those who can best manage change. Charles Darwin, right? Or the only constant in life is change. Heraclitus, okay? And Jack Welch, the former CEO of GM, said change before you have to. So don't expect things to go to or stabilize to a normal status quo kind of state right, and be calm, right, after COVID-19. In fact, we should prepare to change again. Prepare for change before we have to. Once we are, and the key idea here is be adaptable as a leader, as a business owner, right? And your organization itself should be adaptable to that change, impending change, whatever it may be. Okay, then how do we survive, right, and thrive in this what we term VUCA? VUCA is volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous kind of environment, right? Let me share with you a story, military story, right? Because I was from the military before, but it's very relevant, and as I will show you. Okay. So some of you know the Joint Special Operations Forces, right? So this is a story from the Joint Special Operation Forces in Afghanistan, right? And the year was 2004, right? If you know anything about special forces and the military, you will know that they are at the highest peak of performance. They are better than anyone else. They are more fit, more mentally resilient, more adaptable, right? You name it, they are the best of the best of the best. Okay. But we look at the structure. What kind of structure did they have in 2004? Right? They had a very hierarchical structure. If you can see, it's like a typical company or organization. You have the president or CEO on top, then you have the vice president or the directors, right? And then all the respective departments all reporting to them, and then all report to the CEO. And this is all well and good, right? This makes for efficiency. And this is the keyword, first keyword. Okay, this efficiency is built for stability. If you have a very stable environment, you will want this kind of organization, right? Hierarchical, very centrally managed kind of organization is built for efficiency, right? So advantages are that it's very highly disciplined, right? It's centrally managed. It's very precise in execution, right? As with any company, as I think you will be able to see, right? And it's best really for economy of resources because, right, scarce resources for any company, any organization. So how do we make the best use of these resources, right? But the disadvantage is that this type of structure, right, leads to what? Silos. So this type of structure, right, leads to division by silos. This department don't talk to that department. Everybody is focused on doing their own work, right? This is also a very ponderous. That means think a lot, take very long to think. Before you want to do anything, you have to go through this approval, that meeting, this approval, then this person must approve, or that person on leave before any decision is made. Does it sound familiar? Type in the chat if it sounds familiar, right? And also very tribal, right? Divided by politics, right? So this kind of organization is built for efficiency, but does not work well in times of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity in our new VUCA kind of environment. You look at the opposite of what they were dealing with in Afghanistan, Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda were poorly equipped, right? You look at the technology, the state of technology. They were poorly manned. They were undermanned, lack of manpower, right? But yet they were able to actually hold off, right, the Americans and the international forces. Why? Key reason, and this has been researched by many people, okay? Key reason is because of their structure, how they structure themselves. And if you look at this structure, this is the structure of Al-Qaeda. It's what is called a mesh structure. Everything is like connected here and there, not the very hierarchical, very efficient structure, right? And if you look at it, it's very interesting, right? Because this means that it's far more adaptable, right, to the situation. This is built for changes in your operating environment, just like what we have now here today, right? And if you think about it, what does it look like? It looks like something very similar, the brain. Our brain, everything is interconnected. These hemispheres are interconnected. The three different parts of the brains are connected to each other. The amygdala, the hippocampus, right? Everything is connected to each other, which will help us to adapt. So human beings actually, we've gone through this years and years of evolution to make us adaptable. Remember what Charles Darwin said, right? It's those that are most adaptable to change. And they realized in Afghanistan that the efficiency model, the traditional hierarchical model, was actually less effective than the Al-Qaeda mesh network kind of model, which was really autonomous, because like what they said, you cut off one splinter, another will grow, right? It was fast, it was very adaptable, and it was very lethal, and also it was very resilient, right? So like I said, if you cut off or if you destroy one cell, another one will take its place. So then the question is, what do they do? What do they need to do in that kind of environment? Someone said structured is efficient, yes, but with collaboration is very useful and a united force to reckon with. Exactly right. So that's what they realized, and that's how they changed from a command typical top-down structure. They became a command of teams. So teams is where the collaboration comes in. Yeah. So collaboration is useful and a united force. The united force is actually what they ended up with, which is team of teams. So this is the second key thing that I want to share with everybody. From your most likely very typical traditional top-down structure, move towards the team of team structure. Yes, the internet mesh network looks like internet, right? Exactly, because it's resilient. You cut off one here, there's another path, right? So team of teams is the same way. Think about collaboration and think about the relationship amongst the teams, right? So I realized that I'm getting a bit behind time, so I'm going to speed up a little bit, okay? But the important things are done. So this basically led to greater creativity, increased productivity, faster, more precise actions, right? And higher performance. The special forces, they used to, before 2004, they used to do only 18 raids a night. After they went to these teams of teams, they actually were able to conduct 300 raids a night. That is more than 10, almost 20 times better, 20 times more productive, 20 times more efficient. If you think about maximizing employee performance, right, you want to be able to do that. So start to implement a team of teams approach. Okay, if you think about it, the best companies in the world, Apple, GM, Google, P&G, all use the same approach. Okay, so although the example was from the military, it has very real world and private organization kind of implications, and what we can learn from it is the same. Okay. Second story I want to share. Who knows this? Who knows the Apollo program? So Apollo program involved 300,000 people, if you didn't know. Okay, 300,000 people from well over 80 countries. How do you get 300,000 people to work together from 80 different countries? Remember, this was back in the 60s, right? And across 200 universities, 20,000 contractors. So it's a massive, massive, massive program. But they didn't have Zoom. They didn't have Microsoft Teams back then. How did they get to work together, right? In this kind of hybrid working environment across different geographies, across different time zones. How do you maximize performance there? What they realized, right, in the Apollo program, this guy, George Mueller, he set up basically to break down silos, just like in the team of teams, break down the silos, allow everybody to understand the entire entity, not just what's happening in your own department, in your own division, right? Allow people to understand the different entities, have regular status update meetings. But again, the idea was to keep the meetings short and sharp, have a very clear agenda, have a very clear structure, right? Have very clear rules for the meetings, right? But make it efficient and effective, right? But most importantly, they had massive radio loops. So in the world where they didn't have Zoom, they only had the telephone, they only had fax, and they had the infancy of what we call the internet, right? They built massive radio loops so that whenever one person or one group did something, they would actually broadcast it to the rest of the organization. This is NASA, right? And so everybody will get updated at the same time. So if you needed to know, then, right, of course, you would take the information in. But if you didn't need to know, it's okay, right? So that actually helped them to operate very, very quickly and maximize their performance, right? Even back in the 1960s. So whatever I'm teaching you here actually today is actually not new. It's just that the tools and equipment that we are using today maybe is new, okay? But most importantly, they applied what is known as system of systems thinking, system of systems approach, system of systems engineering and management. So think of you as a business owner yourself. Start thinking, and this is strategy, right? Start thinking in a system of systems way, right? How does HR relate to marketing, relate to operations, relate to production, right? Relate to finance? How do these things interplay? And of course, allow everybody to communicate and collaborate well with each other. Yeah. So if you look at the best companies in the world, they are using the same approach. Okay. Now, remember, communication is not constrained, communication is required. So George Mueller, the director of NASA, said this: communication is key, is required, must make people work across. That's how you, again, maximize their performance. Not just do, but communicate with each other, teamwork. So now we come to the tools for hybrid work. Actually, the tools are really the last part, right? If you have all the tools in the world, right, but there's no culture of communication, there's no culture of trust, there's lack of leadership, lack of supervision, right, lack of clarity in their roles and responsibilities, none of this is going to work, right? But I'm going to cover it just so that you may be introduced to some of the new tools. So I think communication tools we all know already: Zoom, MS Teams, WebEx, Google Hangouts. You can use even email. Don't forget email. Don't forget the call, the phone, WhatsApp, right? Then some of you may not know these, right? Collaborative tools, Slack. Some of you may have heard of it. Mural is one that I like to use. Jira software and ClickUp, right? And then the last type of tools are what I call project management tools. Things like Monday.com, Asana, Entas, Gantt Pros to make Gantt charts. And of course, don't forget your big Google Suites or your Microsoft 365. These enable project management, these enable collaboration, and these enable communication. If you are looking for any kind of tools to assist you in hybrid work, these are the three key categories. Look for a communication tool, right? Look for a collaboration tool, and look for a project management tool, because any management is about project management, if you really think about it. And this list is non-exhaustive. There are new tools coming up every day. But like I said, the tools are only one part of the answer. How you use those tools, right? And the kind of culture that you set to maximize performance is actually more important. Okay. So I'm going to leave this here. You'll get it out all in the PDF, right? In the slides, so you can check them out later. Okay. But most importantly, never mistake activity for achievement. So using the tools, right? Your employees may be doing a lot, right? But are they really achieving goals, achieving objectives? That is the more important question. Okay, so John Wooden, one of the very famous basketball coaches in the US, said this: never mistake activity for achievement. When we can't see employees, how do we know that they are working? Okay, so now maybe Emmeline, you want to share the poll results, right? So the Emmeline.
The results will be popping up now.
Okay, yeah. And so thank you, Emmeline. So when the boss is not around, performance and productivity drops. 59, almost 60% of you said yes, right? And 41% said no. Okay, so that's good. That's not bad, right? I expected more people to say yes. Okay, but for those of you who said yes, right? Why do you say so? Maybe put in the chat why you think performance and productivity drops when the boss is not around. And maybe for those people who said no, why do you think no, right? When the boss is not around. You can go ahead, right? And I will continue because I'm a bit mindful of time. Now it's 11:10 already. Okay, about halfway there. Okay. Okay, so now next portion, how to influence workers, and it's not what you think. I'm going to share with you 4 key ideas very fast. Okay. First key idea is we're moving right from the industrial age to the knowledge age. Industrial age is the old way where we see people as workers, as resources. That's why we call human resources. But the new age is the knowledge age, is the new way where we should see workers not just as resources, but as assets. Okay, that's why we are actually transitioning to the term human capital, right? Or talent management, because we see them as assets. So old way is routine work, predictable work. New way is work is constantly changing. Remember VUCA, complex, cognitive demanding. Old way is modular, standardized, working across bodies. New way is that need to be collaboration, right, with each other to learn, solve problems creatively. Old way, people need to be prodded to deliver high quality work. New way, people are actually self-directed, right? A lot of the young people today are actually very self-directed and curious, and they desire to be better at something. Old way was satisfaction by extrinsic rewards. If you do this, then I give you this. But actually, the new way is getting inherent satisfaction in the activity itself. So old way, new way. This is the transition. The old future of work, right? If you look actually back in the 1990s, they came up with this T-shaped cross-functional skills. Shell did it, but first described in the 1991, combined both deep and breadth of skills, right? And deep functional expertise, right? So breadth of skills, deep functional expertise, well-honed social skills to collaborate across disciplines. And this is not a new thinking. But what happens when you have this kind of structure or this kind of approach to skills? Everybody gets siloed again, right? Led to silos, tribes, lack of communication, increased politics centrally managed. All right? Does it sound familiar? Right? Or look familiar? It is genesis from the old command centrally managed style organization. What is the new future of work where actually humans, gig work, right? Robots are the new blended workforce. It's what we call the Z-shaped skills. Z-shaped skills combine increasing depth of business and digital literacy, soft skills across the 5 C's for collaboration, critical thinking, change management, communications, and cultural fluency, along with a focus on creativity and innovation. So this is what we use in the team of teams. Okay. Remember extrinsic rewards, right? And they did research around this. Extrinsic rewards can be efficient for algorithmic tasks, right? Following an existing formula, A, B, C, step-by-step approach. But for more right-brain undertakings, creative, flexible problem solving, inventiveness, conceptual understanding, contingent rewards actually can be dangerous and they can backfire. Okay, so when money is used for an external reward for some activity, the subjects, they did research around this, actually lose intrinsic interest for the activity itself. When they try and control more, people comply, right? But then it actually backfired. So the converse is actually true. If you give people more autonomy, more freedom, actually it leads to engagement, right? Make sense? Okay, so extrinsic versus intrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation can be effective, right? I'm not saying don't use it, right? But more for the algorithmic task. More right brain use intrinsic motivation. This one, extrinsic goals imposed can actually have dangerous side effects, whereas goals that people set for themselves, so the keyword is set for themselves, are devoted to attaining mastery that are usually healthy. Extrinsic motivation narrows our focus. Sometimes it's good, right? But it's good only when there's a clear path to a solution. In today's environment, no clear path to solution, don't use that as much. And it rewards narrowed people's focus and blinkered to the wide view, which is what we need in today's environment, right? And goals may cause systemic problems, right, for the organization because they may take on more unethical behavior, right? Increased risk-taking, right? Decreased cooperation, collaboration, and decreased intrinsic motivation, right? And over here, I like to bring up the story of the 3 bricklayers. So first bricklayer, right? There is doing a brick, just piling the brick on. He says, I'm just here from 9 to 5. All I'm doing is just building this, putting this brick. Okay, second brick layer, he knows that he's building a wall, so he'll do whatever is necessary to build that wall, right? But the third brick layer, he knows that he's building a cathedral at the end of the day. This kind of brick layer is the best because he knows what needs to get done. You don't even need to tell him what to do. He will go and get it done. This is the type of person that we need. But the key to that is how to activate their intrinsic motivation. And I will share with you how exactly to activate their intrinsic motivation. So 7 deadly flaws of carrots and sticks. They can extinguish the intrinsic motivation, right? They can diminish performance, they can crush creativity, they can crowd out good behavior, they can encourage cheating, shortcuts, unethical behavior, they can even become addictive, and they can foster short-term thinking, not long-term thinking that you want, right? So the old way of working no longer works, right? Because the world is becoming more VUCA, right? The old way of working, the industrial age, we need to move away from that. The T-shaped skills and control, too much control. The new way of working is actually the team of teams approach, seeing people, seeing workers as assets instead of just resources, Z-shaped skills, and more intrinsic motivation. I will cover autonomy, mastery, and purpose later. But what is the one of the keys to that? If you want quality of results, right, is affected by the quality of our actions. What's the quality of our actions affected by? Is the quality of our thinking, it's the quality of our relationships at the end of the day. So what really affects the quality and how to develop quality relationships is these few things. Be self-aware, give people your time, accept and celebrate differences, tend to people's feelings first, then their actions. Practice active listening, strengthen your communication skills, give and take feedback, trust more, and strengthen your empathy. I know a lot to take in. You will get all these slides so that you can go back and absorb it more. Okay, you don't build a business, you build people, then people help you build the business. This is said by Zig Ziglar. He's a motivational speaker. And also another African proverb: if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. Okay, so how to influence workers? It's not right. How not to influence is by extrinsic motivation alone, or I'm the boss, just do as I say. How to influence workers is really using a combination of both intrinsic as well as extrinsic motivation. And the key is to build quality relationships, right? Like I just mentioned. Okay. So now we come to the 6 keys. This is the last part of my presentation really. The 6 keys to managing performance in a hybrid work environment. Okay, what is the first key? First key to building that relationship is really to understand human behavior. And to understand human behavior, we need to understand psychology and how the mind works. This comprises of 3 components. Our thoughts and how we think affects how we feel and how we act. Our emotions, how we feel affects how we think and what we do. And the last part, our behavior. What we do also affects how we think and how we feel. And these 3 things, right, everybody has. So then what we do becomes other people's thoughts and behaviors and feelings. And then what they do becomes our thoughts. And likewise, which extend to affect our emotions and our behavior. And these 3 things are constantly and in dynamic equilibrium, right? And it affects our core beliefs around 3 things: ourselves, other people, and our future. So if we want to influence their performance, which means to say influence their behavior, we need to understand the cycle of these 3 things, how they are interrelated, right? So watch your thoughts because they become your words. Watch your words because they become your actions. Watch your actions because they become your habits. And watch your habits because they become your character, right? So a person's character heavily influences their behavior and their destiny at the end of the day. So if you look Chinese or Western, right, Lao Tzu or Ralph Waldo Emerson or even Buddha, actually they said something to a similar effect. And human behavior is affected by our character, but also the company culture. So we affect the culture and the culture in turn affects us. So how do we encourage behaviors through the culture that maximize team performance? Remember, it's not just about the tools, it's about the relationships that we form with our staff, with our employees, right? One thing is higher character, train skill. So even if you bring in someone with already a negative character, it's going to affect, right? Toxically affect the environment or the culture. So first one, higher character, then you train the skill, right? The second key, so that's the first key, understanding human behavior. The second key to managing performance in the hybrid work is to create a psychologically safe working environment. So once you've hired someone with good character, and there are ways and means to go about that, which I shall not discuss here, then you need to ensure you create a psychologically safe working environment so that you have the correct culture, so that you have the you encourage the correct behavior, continue to encourage the correct behavior from the person. Okay, and you do this through three things: coaching, facilitation, and a town hall engagement. What are you doing here? You're trying to keep out distrust, you're trying to keep out blame, fear, criticism, and anxiety, because these things will lower performance. These things will affect the trust, will affect the relationships. You want to keep trust in, create an environment of mutual respect, acceptance, and security. Okay, these things will ensure a psychologically safe environment. Remember, everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it's stupid. So everybody is strong in some way. So we, as leaders, as bosses, it's up to us to find the strength in the person, to find the talent in the person. There are 5 dysfunctions of a team, right? If you read this book, 5 dysfunctions of a team is absence of trust. Remember, fear of conflict, lack of commitment, avoidance of accountability, and inattention to the results. So how do we get over these things, right? It's by overcoming the need for our invulnerability, the need to feel powerful, right? And we do that through personal history exercises or team effectiveness exercises. If you want to know more, go and read the book, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. We need to weed out artificial harmony at the top, but have true communication, right? So we actually mine for conflict. We create conflict, but constructive and positive conflict. And we give people real-time permission to have constructive conflict. Remember, not all conflict is bad. There is such thing as healthy conflict. Okay, we need to combat ambiguity to buy in commitment, right? And we do that through cascading messaging and setting deadlines, right? Cascading messaging just means as simple as going around the room in a meeting after the meeting is done to check that everybody knows what they need to do. Okay, we need to prevent low standards, and we do that by publicizing goals and standards and having progress reviews. Right? And we need to put our own status and ego aside, right? And have a public declaration of results, be transparent, right? And have results-based rewards. Okay, so that's how we combat the 5 dysfunctions of a team. How to implement a company culture? There are basically 6 steps. I will quickly go through it, and then you can read more if you like in your own time. Decide what kind of culture, right? And establish the rules for behavior that you want, and then communicate these, right? Then let employees know that they are valued and appreciated. Step 4 is to hire people who share your values and your character and agree to these rules. Okay, so if the people you bring into the company is vital, then hold everybody, especially yourself, accountable. And finally, lead well, right? Third key to managing performance in a hybrid work environment: setting goals and giving timely feedback. Can't stress how important this is. And if you like, read the 1 Minute Manager book. It's very short book, but very good. Set 1 minute goals, right? That can fit in 1 page. Agree on what good behavior looks like. Reflect and review on the goals, right? Daily for themselves, right? In less than a minute. Facilitate self-improvement and monitor results through progress reports. Give 1 minute praises. We don't catch people doing good things enough. We always catch people doing wrong things. We need to change our own mindset as leaders to catch people doing good work and provide feedback as soon as possible. Give appreciation. Hey, good job. Be specific around what was done well, right? And how it makes you feel, right? And continue to affirm and show your appreciation and encourage more from it. And then whenever a mistake is made, use a 1-minute redirect. Provide feedback as soon as possible and set expectations, not to scold them, but to address the mistake and be specific. Share the feelings why this mistake, right, makes you feel certain in a certain way. Pause to let the feeling sink in, and then reaffirm them, right? Remind them that they are valued, right, and they're appreciated as part of the team, as part of the company, and show genuine concerns. All it takes is 1 minute, right, to show praise, to redirect. Doesn't take a lot of time, but you will see a marked improvement in their performance already. Whatever you do, don't be a seagull manager. What do seagull managers do? They fly in, make a lot of noise, dump on everyone, then fly out. They only interact with employees when there's a problem. They rarely offer praise or encouragement when things are going well, and they often seek to place the blame on other people when problems arise. Right? They draw attention to themselves in order to appear important, right? Invulnerability, but they criticize other people and make little contribution to the solution of the problem, right? The fourth key to managing performance in hybrid work is what I like to, is what we call coaching, right? The best coaches don't use the same style for every individual member. They're flexible enough to adapt to the situation at hand. So from a novice, you may get someone in as a novice, you're going to need to coach them and handhold them more, but give constructive 1 minute redirection. If hired well, they actually won't need to stay in this state for long. Then they become a doer. They start to perform, okay, but you still need to supervise, but continue to encourage, right, and praise for the good results. Then they become a performer. Then that's where you can let go a little bit more. They're carrying the full share of the load, right? Much less tail coaching, if any, but still provide feedback as and when necessary. Then they progress to become a master. When they are a master, in fact, they are doing it, actually, you can leave them alone. You can fully empower them, fully delegate the task to them. Don't really need to check on them other than once in a long time. Deep enough understanding of what needs to be done. In fact, they can undertake the teaching and coaching of others even more. Then they become an expert. Then these are where you really want them to be. Don't need a lot of direction, highly self-sufficient. So anytime you feel like you need to manage your employees' performance more, just means that they haven't reached up to the state or the level of which you expect them. So you need to drop down. You need to come down to their level and then build them up again. Okay, so that's another key to managing performance. Don't just expect. If they can't deliver, right, there's no point just expecting and expecting it to happen. It won't be done, right? We have to bring ourselves and then coach them up. But that's provided we get in the right person in the first place. Okay, so hire character, right? Then you can train skills. The next one is develop the talent. When they come in, have a mind on what they aspire to do, right? I have a client who actually said this to me. What if we train them and then they leave, right? I'm sure it's going across everybody's minds, right? The question should be, what if we don't train them and then they stay, right? They're going to drag down the entire company. So we must develop talent, must keep sending them for training and upgrading. Okay, and I would like to use what I call the individual development action plan. Very simple, right? You set a goal for them, long-term wise, career-wise, what do they want to do at the end of the day? Then we make a deliberate action plan on what they need to do in order to reach those goals. And then we recap during your performance reviews as and when necessary. You look for what's improvement, what has made progress, but also highlight areas for improvement. And then you can change the development roadmap, right, along the way. So I highly recommend this if you want to manage your employees' performance well. Individual development action plan. And the last one is really about purpose. This is where we really motivate people. And how we motivate people depends on three things. First is to give autonomy, not about telling. If you are telling them, you're managing them wrong, right? Give them the autonomy because people want to be self-directed. They want to direct their own lives. And it increases engagement over compliance, remember. Mastery. People naturally want to improve their skills. naturally want to get better and better at something. If they don't want this, you've hired the wrong person. So that's why I say you must always hire character. And this is about character. Okay, but the last one is to give them purpose, the desire to do something that has meaning. So what has meaning? Not to you, not to the company, but has meaning to them. So their purpose is aligned with the company's purpose. Okay, may not be exactly the same, but aligned incongruent. Okay, and the yearning to do what in something larger than just ourselves. So I'm going to share with you, this is the key. The 9 types of employees and how to motivate them. Not everybody is the same. Not everybody is out for money or status. Some people just like the security, just like stability. Give them that. Some people like to make friends. Some people like to be the star of the company. Some people like to be a director of a company, right? Some people like to build things, right? Some people like to be experts. Like some people like to be creators. They're very imaginative. Some people like the free spirit, independence, and autonomy. And then some people like to be the searcher. So the key, right, is to really have that conversation. That's why I say communication is key. The individual development action plan is key. This is where you find out what actually motivates them. Then you find out how you can get them to do the work or find a place for them in the organization where they can succeed. Then once you are able to do that, you align their motivation, their intrinsic motivation with that of the company's goals. Then actually you can just let them, right? And they will progress. If they are novice, they will progress very fast up to mastery, right? Remember, this is how you get them to be intrinsically motivated by speaking to what they want, not what you want. Remember, what you want is the end result, yes, but talk about how things in terms of what they want, right? As a leader, as a boss, as a manager, that should be what we should be doing. Okay, all this is research. So through motivation, teaching, and guidance, the leader assists the people in reaching their fullest potential. Right? I have in my practice, right, my own human capital management system. So it's a full through train, upstream, downstream kind of approach to how I build people and talent and manage talent. Okay, so one more key idea that I'm going to leave you with is train people well enough so that they can leave, right? But treat them well enough so that they don't want to. The CEO of Virgin, the company, Richard Branson, said this. Okay, so there you have it. Right, the 6 keys to managing performance in a hybrid work. The tools are not here. The tools are the tools, but these are really the 6 keys to managing performance: understanding human behavior, creating psychologically safe working environment, setting goals and giving timely feedback, coaching and mentoring, talent development, and giving them purpose. Right, and all this is really about practicing good leadership. Right. So what is good leadership? There are 6 areas which I will not dwell on. Basically, critical thinker, able to communicate, so and adaptable. IQ, EQ, AQ, being results oriented and action oriented, being highly self-aware, but most importantly, having the correct values: authenticity, transparency, sincerity, genuine concern for others, sacrifice. Okay, and with that, I'm going to move on to the panel discussion. I introduce Mr. Stephen Chia, the Managing Director of Work Solutions. Work Solutions, what is Work Solutions? Work Solutions is essentially a brand engagement company. So I will leave him to elaborate a little bit on what they do and ask him his experience in managing performance, employee performance in this hybrid environment. So can I invite Stephen?
Yeah, hi Sean, thanks.
Hi. Yeah. Thank you for joining us today. So maybe you just want to spend 30 seconds, just very quickly, explaining what Work Solutions does.
Thanks. Yeah. Okay. Basically, we are a project management firm that helps businesses, all sizes, MNCs, SMEs, with marketing-related functions. This can be in the form of an event, even producing your corporate premiums, merchandise, producing your social media content, artworks that you need. So it's quite a wide range of works, even ranging to logistical needs as well. Yeah, so that's us in a nutshell. Yeah.
Thank you. So maybe let me just jump to the first question. So how has it been recently, last year and this year? What's your experience? Can you share with us your experience in managing your employees' performance in this hybrid working environment?
Yeah, I think basically for us, I think the main twist for a lot of people was last year, right? COVID happening, circuit breaker happening. So us, one of our main services being events, physical events, lifestyle events.
Yeah.
We are the industry that we are the first to go, first to stop, and we would likely be the last to come back. So, in terms of revenue hit and business opportunities last year, that segment definitely took a big hit for us. So I think what we decided to do and make the best of that time, fortunately we managed to meet you and engage your services, was to go through that core capability program. So I think that to us, gave us time to actually put our efforts and focus inward. I think for the first time in how many years we've done business, we finally put time and a structure to focusing on our talent, our people, and these range from the 5 pillars that you brought us through, which was human capital, which is our people, leadership, business processes, marketing, and lastly innovation. So yeah.
So that's interesting because where during a time of crisis where people are panicking, actually you took the time to look inward and actually to upgrade or upskill and look at the talent and how you can improve things, right? So tell us about how that has led to, or how that has maybe led to either changes or improvements in how your employees are performing today?
Yeah, so I think last year with hybrid working, work from home, that was definitely a big change. Myself on a personal level, I cannot work from home because I've got 2 kids and it's quite difficult. And these issues definitely affect members of your teams. Like I have a colleague who has they have a family of 7 at home, and I can see on a web call sometimes he's on his bed, his father is at the back. So there are these things that you as an employer have to understand and try to take into account. I think the one thing that we definitely leverage on was the project management software. So I think just now you shared one of your softwares. We actually use that Monday.com. So that greatly aided a lot of our overview on statuses, communicating, updating each other. Not everything needs to be an email or WhatsApp. It might get lost. So that definitely helped us a lot. That switch in that digital component. Yeah. In terms of performance, I think definitely doing that program with you, it gave everyone a lot of ownership on the different aspects. So it's not just me involved in every single topic or area of focus, because I obviously can't won't be able to be in charge of everything. It's quite impossible. And I think for the other participants, your companies may be even bigger. So yeah, and I think it was good that and it's very similar to that army, that Afghanistan, that example that you gave. So yeah, so we actually do have a lot of smaller teams. So like me and my finance and another colleague, we would then focus on HR, for example. But another 2-3 colleagues would then focus on marketing. Right. So I think that gave everyone a lot of ownership on, and it shows, and the trust is definitely given to them. I'm not worried that are they sleeping at home? Are they, do they wake up at 10 and only start work at a certain time?
Right. Okay. Maybe we can take one question here. There's an interesting question from an anonymous attendee. Hiring character instead of skills, and I wholly agree that this is my belief too. But what if the inherited staff or team is self-centered, pessimistic, and of poor character? Right? What can we do besides waiting for them to resign? Counseling and kindness does not work on them. Right? So I'm going to make this answer live. I don't know, Stephen, maybe you want to share your thoughts first before I chime in?
I think I would I mean, I could be wrong, yeah, but I think for me, how I would approach it is, number one is communication. So if that conversation isn't there, if I don't even let this person know how I feel or how their actions may affect their other colleagues, then you won't start that exploration, right, into how can we solve this, and maybe at the end of that process, okay, fine, if both you or that person's directions or views are very different, maybe okay, as you as the owner, he may not be the right fit, he may excel somewhere else, and that's fine,
Yeah. Thanks. I think that's a very good observation and inputs, and I would fully agree with that. My take would be, okay, this is inherited stuff, so you didn't hire them, right? So unfortunately, and I'm sorry, but they're self-centered, pessimistic, and of poor character. Counseling and kindness does not work on them. But does it mean that we should be unkind to them? I'm sure you disagree with that. So we continue to be kind to them and offer help, right? But really, like what Stephen said, the basis is really communication. You being this way, right, affects the team, affects the organization, right? But we care for you, right? So I think the second thing is really to understand why. Maybe counseling, right, is one way, but understand, and this is through subtle questioning. I think I use the approach of subtle questioning a lot more, not to ask them, hey, why are you so self-centered, but ask them about, hey, can you tell me more about what you do outside of work? Can you tell me more about your family? Engage them in other ways. And then we come to this, and we are all built with these skills, right? To understand maybe why they are like that. Maybe there's a good reason for them being like that. Maybe it's because of past experiences. And only when we empathize, when we start actively listening, and that's the key for one of the keys for being a good leader, when we really practice active listening and really try and understand and put ourselves into the shoes, into the form of other people, can we then realize where they are coming from and why they are behaving like that? Maybe it's nothing to do with actually their poor character. Maybe it's their circumstances that they were in. So if we allow ourselves, open up our own minds, right, to this, then maybe we can connect with them, right? And the connection, building that trust is key, because in this case, that trust is lost, or that trust was never there because you inherited that team. So you need to find ways to build that trust. And even if it's a very, very small thing, right? So continue with kindness, continue with counseling, but counsel from a approach of building trust and earning their respect. Then through that, and it takes time. That's why I say right from the start, these things take time. Only when we truly build that trust and form and repair or grow that relationship, then they will be more, open themselves to other opinions and your ways of doing things, right? Hopefully that answers your question. Okay. There's a long prose here, right? Which I'm not sure whether there's a question to this. Focusing, you say a company, I'm going to answer live. A company has different job functions in the service industry other than some services which have to be physically given to customers. Sales job too might involve meeting never met before, have to get back office, collect some parts, private information, your money comes in physical form, check may be deposited. Of course, over time, entire economy can be upgraded. Yeah, so sounds like you're making a lot of points that make sense. Atlantic report, optimum work mode is either mainly office environment workplace, or either or mainly home environment workplace, but not hybrid, because the home environment might also have the right infrastructure, and this takes time. So if I hear you correctly, if I interpret your statement correctly, so optimal work environment is either mainly office or mainly home, right? Because not a hybrid environment, because right, even home environment might need to have the right infrastructure in place, and this takes time. So right, yes. So your home setup, right, and you can Google these things very easily these days. How many screens, at what distance should the screen be? How you place your objects, whether or not you can have a good Zoom environment or good webcam. All these things, yes, takes time, but actually it's not too difficult. If you invest a little bit of time and effort, you can actually do it. But what's more important, again, is the connection and the trust. So it all boils back down to the relationships, the trust that you build with your team. If you have these things in place, actually then the tools, the equipment then becomes a facilitator of that trust, the facilitator of the communication, the facilitator of the dialogue and the collaboration that you want to have with your teams. Yeah. Okay. So do we have any more questions from the floor? Maybe while
I think, Sean, if I
yeah.
can add on for
Sure, please.
that question. I think just to
yes.
share, like for us, Work Solutions, our nature of business is yes, of course, we do have computer work, emails, and organizing. But there's a big component of our work that is very physical. Example, we need to do photo shoots for clients. All the photo equipment are in our office. We have physical goods coming. So we do have to go to the office. Besides working from home, we have to receive goods as well, or send out goods. So I think how we manage around it is that we, at the start of the month, we actually do a full, of course now we're implementing flexible work arrangements in terms of staggered working hours, starting at different times, being able to work from home. So we leave this totally to the staff to decide whether if you are working from home on that day, or okay, hey, there's actually a delivery coming on X, which day, so you have to swap that. So we leave that open, and then we don't force anyone to come in. And I think leveraging on the software, our WhatsApp groups, I think that communication still works actually quite well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you for that. We have another question. What would we do if the bosses are the cause of the staff to be demoralized? I'm gonna list this up. Can you guys see the questions? What will you do if the bosses are the cause of the staff having been demoralized through their actions and their words spoken? Stephen, what are your thoughts on this?
Maybe I think they can look for you. But I think for this, if it was me, if I was a staff and I think my boss may be maybe a cause of some issues, I would say, depending on am I a senior manager just under this person, or am I a few layers down? I think that would definitely need to be brought up. Maybe the way and the style of it's brought up. It's not like a full-on intervention, but I think that conversation must happen. If not how, right? Or die together.
Yeah, exactly. You hit the nail on the head. It's a conversation, and again, everything boils back down to communication and relationship and trust, right? Because we need to see we need to see workers not as resources, but we need to see workers as human beings, and human beings have emotions. Human beings have, they have feelings. Right? And they are not robots. If everybody were robots, none of us, will be having this conversation about maximizing employee performance. But if it's your boss, again, remember that your boss also has emotions. Your boss also has feelings. They are going through things that you also probably don't understand, right? And because they are your boss, you have to be a bit realistic in that how much can you, as the subordinate, change them. There's this saying that sometimes you manage up as well as manage down, right? So you need to manage up as well, right? But it's about facilitating that communication. How do you still, despite their attitude, despite their actions and words, still be effective? It still boils down to communication. And how do you effectively communicate with them despite this? So there are two things. You can either get around their words and actions by avoiding, right, which is less ideal, obviously, or you can target it head on. But how you target it head on and how you address it with the boss may require, or definitely will require, a lot of tact and a lot of diplomacy. because you can't say, hey, you are, not a good boss, then immediately they're going to be on the defensive. So it depends on whether or not your company and your organization, whether you have a conflict resolution process. And I highly recommend this for any company, is to have a conflict resolution process. Remember just now we said not all conflict is unhealthy. Not all conflict is negative or bad. There can be healthy conflict. In fact, conflict is an opportunity, right? So look at this as an opportunity for growth. For growth for who? For the boss, for yourself, as well as for the company, right? To address it. Recognize, and it's, of course, I mean, there's a whole other process, but it starts with recognizing that there is a problem and how it affects other people and the organization in the first place. And then after that, going step by step to dealing and managing that conflict and coming to a win-win situation, right? Mutual understanding. So, I mean, it's not so straightforward and easy, but hopefully I've roughly listed out some of the key steps that will help you to target this. Yeah. Good. Do we have any other questions? How do we transit from a old management to a new management style? Okay, good. For example, if all along there's lack of trust due to staff not performing to expectations, how do we start building trust? Okay, and how do we openly tell the staff that we start afresh? Okay, that's a good question. Stephen, you want to share your views?
I think for this, like personally myself, I'm a bit more introverted. I don't think I want to, call for a whole town hall meeting and everybody, and maybe other participants may be on the same page as this. I think how I would tackle this is to probably first put some kind of structure to how I want to get this message across. That can be sent in the form of an email first to the team. At least everybody knows the gist of what the discussion or topic might be about. Then after, okay, you can do a group meeting. Everybody already has some kind of idea of what's going to happen. I would do that. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. What I would recommend is using a change management approach. Right. So what is a change management approach? You can easily Google change management, right, and find out. But essentially, it's about three things. Change management is about three things. Understand where you are now. What is the current reality? And the current reality is, there's lack of trust, not performing up to expectation. But more importantly, what will happen if nothing changes? So you list down and you get them to be involved as well, right? List down what will happen if nothing changes, if this continues to be like that. So that is the current reality. Then you say, okay, if we are going to continue like that, it's not going to look good for everybody. Then you open up and say, what do we want to do about it then? What is the new reality that we want, right? How do we, like you said, start afresh? What is this new vision of high trust, everybody is performing well, blah, blah, blah. List that down, and more importantly, how that will make you feel. Because if we feel something, it's more likely that we will buy in and do it, right? And that you have engaged them. And then the third part is how you're going to get from the current reality to the new reality. What are the steps that and you can workshop this, you can facilitate this, you can bring in an external facilitator, right, to bring you through this process. What are the exact steps that you will do? What are the rules for behavior that you will start doing, what you will stop doing, right, to get there, right? So change management. And then the last part is approach it like a project. Really approach it like a project. You set out what needs to be done, who is going to do what the time required, what are the deadlines, and then manage it like a project to get from where you are, right, to where you would like to be. Hopefully we have answered this question. Okay. Another question. How do we manage the jealousy of staff? I'm going to put this out. How do we manage the jealousy of staff who are unable to work from home due to operational needs, and staff who are allowed to work from home, right? For example, admin, management, and staff. Stephen, do you want to share your thoughts?
I say so for us, yes, we do have designers, who can work from home, our admin colleague, finance, who can work from home. Then the other side is the operations side, who do the more hands-on stuff. They have to go to vendors. I think for this is, it has to be clear that, the nature of job and job scope, everyone is different. The designer, perhaps, yes, he's working from home, but he gets last minute work. He on the weekend, yes, on Sunday he had to go and rush. So there are trade-offs. I think it needs to be made clear to everyone that, and everyone needs to understand that, there are these things that will happen, no choice more. Yeah.
I think that's a good way of explaining it. I think as bosses, we also should, again, if they are jealous, they're jealous for a reason. We should listen, right, for this and try and encourage them through other means, right? Either is, okay, we know that, you cannot work from home because of operational needs, but I'll reward you in other ways, not necessarily extrinsic rewards, okay, but really the intrinsic motivation as well, right? The pat on the back, goes a long way. The recognition, right? And I think the recognition is key, but really it's about the relationship, right? And they are saying is jealous. They are saying is jealous because it's unfair. So as we keep the relationship fair, okay, like what Stephen said, right? They are able to work from home, but there are other trade-offs. There are other cons about their work as well. There are pros and there are cons about your work as well. So look at your pros, right? What are the good things that you are getting, right? Despite having to work at the on-site, right? So hopefully we've given you some food for thought here. Yeah, I realized I missed out a couple of questions. Structured is efficient, but with collaboration, it is very useful and a united force to reckon with. Yeah, okay, this is correct. Yeah. LC said, no, if there's positive employee engagement, my view is that employees will deliver results accordingly. Actually, that is quite true, right? So I'm going to list this as done. And Stephen, feel free to jump in anywhere, where you want. And while this is being answered, maybe I will just take the time to say, Stephen, you want to introduce your free gift?
Oh yeah, I mean this was thanks to your advice and opportunity for it. I mean we're offering just a free gift to anyone who just like to find out more about what we do. If we can assist you, yeah, we'd love to find out how. So yeah, there's a QR code that we have here that will just take you to just a page that will just need your name, number, and address. That's all we're asking for.
What's the gift? The gift is a webcam blocker, right?
It's a webcam blocker because I mean cybersecurity, everybody's working from Zoom, so we thought this is one thing that is quite useful. Maybe you don't want to buy yourself, but it's free, you take this kind of, yeah.
Good. Thank you for the offer. So if you like, just scan the QR code, or I think we will also share the link, right? In the chat. Yeah. Stephen, you want to share the link in the chat?
Sure. Yeah.
I'll take some of these answers. So reply to first poll. If you are able to set clear objective and expect key results, the supervisor will measure productivity, results achieved. Doesn't matter when the employee does the work, but it must interfere or cause delay to other team, right? Yeah, I think this is true. It shouldn't. I think what you're trying to say is that it shouldn't, must not interfere, right, or cause delay to other team or process flow. I'm going to mark that as done. Next one, how do we handle a boss who is like to inquire about nitty-gritty things in the office and about staff, right? If the boss is open to, I would say open to, listening to other points of view, then maybe you can subtly and nicely, respectfully tell them that, hey boss, thank you for your input. So always be kind, always be nice about how we say things. Thank you for your input, right? And we'll definitely take that into consideration. We have it under control. So it's a very subtle way of saying it. And it's all about, again, maintaining the relationship. Maintain the relationship because, right, just now I shared the core theory of success. The relationship will determine the thinking. Thinking will determine the quality of the actions, and quality of your actions will determine the quality of your results. Okay, so be respectful, be nice, but you still can communicate with them subtly. Okay, especially if they are your boss. Okay, okay. Hopefully we've answered this question. What is your take on non-monetary rewards in terms of different age group of workers? Right. For example, work-life balances is valued most by younger team members, but the older ones, money is always the key drive. Okay. Stephen, you want to answer this or you want me to answer?
I think for us, just to share, last year, one of the things that we implemented was this thing called wellness hours. And this idea was totally suggested by my colleagues, and they came up with this. So basically what this is every month, each person has 4 hours that they can utilize, be it 2 hours in the morning, leaving that 2 hours earlier from work, and that resets every month. So my initial thought to this was, if I technically calculated that is an additional 6 days of leave per year for everyone. And then, you would, I would imagine that, at the end of the month, everybody would just max and use it out. But actually what surprised me is that they actually didn't, they actually used it. And I think that actually showed that, we wanted to give them flexibility and support, not everything, claim your annual leave, force you to clear leave.
Yeah.
And that definitely showed in terms of the energy, the mood, the communication levels. I think that's one thing that worked for us.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. For me, it's really the key is like what we shared just now. Everybody is motivated by different things, right? Some want more monetary, some want more work-life balance. The key, I think, as a good organization is to be able to adapt to all of them, right? And what some call it compensation and benefits, right? The plan. What's the plan, right? For me, I call it a total rewards scheme. So both extrinsic rewards as well as the intrinsic rewards, which includes work-life balance, mental health days, other things like that. Your work environment also plays a part, right? So it's a total rewards. I encourage everybody to look at it from a total rewards point of view. Okay. So that's done. How do we address Seagull manager who is stationed in different country but wants to let go of staff without accepting the present situation due to the pandemic? Okay, so again, Elsie, I think it's about how we communicate effectively with that Seagull manager, right? So managers, people, right, who presumably have been in the company a lot longer, right? Usually they are a little bit a little bit close to outside ideas. So it depends on how open they are. But I would say, again, it's about how you communicate. If they are a bit more open, tell them a bit more frankly. But if they are a little bit more close, then I would say maybe it depends on the culture of the company as well. Different culture, you have different kinds of communications behaviors. So I would say it really depends on the culture. If it's a negative culture, then you kind of, again, need to address it very subtly. What I would call plant the seeds. Plant the seeds, and these things never are addressed in one fell swoop. It takes time, right? Maybe one way is to ask them to consider, right? What if the thing happened in their country, right? Or if it happened to them, right? How would they feel, right? So sometimes when we are asked to put ourselves in other people's shoes, then we will be a bit more appreciative of other people's opinion. The other thing that you can do is look for workarounds, right? Negotiate, right? Maybe instead of letting go of the staff, maybe we can do a leave of absence, or temporary contract basis or temporary part-time basis, or maybe change to another job scope, right? So it depends on how creative you want to get and how you want to negotiate with the Seagull manager, right, who is in another country. But if able to, I would say the direct communication way is always preferred. It's about how respectful that communication is and how much we are also willing to listen, because the Seagull manager, is also under a lot of pressure, right? Bear in mind, right? So put yourself, if you want to influence them, start by putting yourself in their shoes. Okay. I see a few more questions coming in, but I think we are a bit behind time. So maybe we do, I don't know, Emmeline, how many more questions do you think we should do?
I think we try to end by 12:15 for your portion. Let's have 2 more.
Okay. Thank you everybody for your questions. I am glad to see that everybody is really engaged and asking these questions, and hopefully we've provided some useful tips for everybody. So the next one is what if we have blue collar workers, okay, who always think that the company is not doing enough for them, when in fact, based on budgets, company is doing well. Company is doing well, or company is doing enough. I assume that the company is doing enough, or the company is doing, based on the budgets, as much as possible for them. These workers are not also not welcoming to new hires that don't fit in well with them. In such cases, what should we do, or what can be done? Stephen, you want to share your thoughts?
I think for this, in terms of blue collar, I think that back to your point of communication, right? So how is this even being discussed? Like, why do these workers feel this way? Has that conversation even been discussed with them first to even consider new hires for this? And I think as business owners, a lot of the staff do not see what actually is happening. Maybe you've been leading for the last, but they think everything is going fine. We're still getting jobs, we're still getting orders. So I think that has to be shared. Maybe they don't see that side of things and that's why they are thinking something else. Oh, it looks fine. My upper management are still coming in fancy cars, and we're still going for spending money on this and that. But maybe there are things that they don't see, and during that conversation, then I think A is for the company to express that across, and it's also B for the company to understand more on why they have that feeling, or why. I think I would go that way.
I think you're right. For me, the key word here is transparency, right? So usually as bosses, we are not too comfortable with revealing, right, the budgets and what is the finances, but without revealing too much, right? The research has shown, and just now I've shared before, right? Publicize the results, right? Publicize the results. Even for blue collar workers, even though they are blue collar, they are all still very smart. Everybody is smart. Remember what Einstein said, right? Everybody is smart, everybody is talented, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its life thinking that it's stupid. So even blue collar workers are smart, right? They think. Everybody is human. Everybody thinks, right, about what's the situation, and therefore they are coming to conclusions. They are making observations. They are coming to conclusions about what you are doing, what you're not doing, right? So why be less transparent? Well, actually, if you are more transparent, without revealing too much, tell them this is what we have and this is what we are doing for you, and prove it to them. Essentially, by being authentic, by being transparent, prove it to them that we are doing as much as we can. They will look at this and they will think, right? And the research has actually shown they will think, okay, yes, there will be some that will continue to grumble, but by and large, what you want to address is the majority. By and large, they will see what you are doing. They will see for themselves as a fact what you are doing is enough for them, right? And then they will come to the realization, okay, that actually, yes, the company is doing enough for us. I get that, right? But it's when we hide things Then they think, why they hide? Why they need to hide? Is it because the company is not doing well? Is it because the company want to keep more for themselves, keep more profits for themselves? Then they will think of all kinds of crazy things, right? So be authentic, be transparent, nothing to hide, right? I mean, except for the really confidential stuff. Show your results and then reward them based on those results, as what I shared just now about the 5 dysfunctions of the team, right? Then the part about workers not welcoming to new hires that don't fit in well with them, then that's where you as a leader, you need to use your emotional intelligence and social intelligence and communicate with them, right? Usually this don't fit well with them is because they see them as outsiders. So the key is how to bring them in as insiders from the outside group to the inside group. 2 things: shared history. So share their personal histories. Like one of the key thing is trust. Just now, one of the dysfunctions of the group, if I can bring up that, go to slide. I go to the slide, the dysfunctions of the 5 dysfunctions of a group, right? Remember, the key here is trust or the lack of trust. So this personal histories exercise, I would highly recommend this. Go through this, let them share what is their personal history, and also do a team effectiveness exercise. What is team effectiveness exercise? Essentially is getting them to have a shared experience. When people have shared experiences, that tends to build trust, right? Then those current workers will, through the shared experience, through the personal histories exercise, they will start to trust the new people coming in. And then they will go through this fit. Then there are 5 stages to forming a team: form, storm, norm, perform, and then adjourn. So what they're doing is storming. After this storming, shared experience, then they will form their own norms, right? And give them the rules for behavior, give them the structure, and they will be able to perform well. Okay, hopefully we've answered that question. Now it's 12:12, so we got 3 more minutes. Take maybe one last question. How can briefly enlighten us on ways to improve employee engagement? Okay, Stephen, how do you approach improving employee engagement? You want to share?
I think for us, trusting your team, clear communications, giving them accountability. Accountability, of course, meaning they are responsible for it when you delegate. But I guess also we need to set them up for success, not just here's a task, do it by this day. At least go through, communicate. Do you understand what's the objective? Do you understand how to go about it? And then keep that door open for if there's any questions, open door policy, right? Come back to me.
Yeah. That's good. Thank you. So thanks for sharing. I agree totally. For me, engagement in my human capital management system, engagement is about these 4 things, right? Motivation, culture, relationships, and compensation. So compensation we've covered is the total rewards. So that settles your salaries, your benefits, your rewards, your flexible working arrangements, all that, the total rewards. Okay, engagement for me is about finding out what motivates each of them, and then having that communication, right? And using that motivation, right, to encourage them to work, to perform, right? So that is part of engagement. Engagement is also about setting the culture, right? So determining your values, right? And then the rules for behavior for everybody, right? Making it clear and communicating that with them and reinforcing that over time, right? You need to over communicate just to communicate, right? And engagement, last but not least, right, is about relationships between you as an employer and your employee. So you must establish that trust and that mutual respect and that relationship between you and them. How do you go about it? By sharing and by listening, right? By communicating, by being genuinely interested in them and their career, or them and their position in the company. Simple things like, hey, how's it going? Right? What can I help you with? Right? Servant leadership, right? How can I help you today? Or how can I help you to advance your career? What is the next step in your career? That is engagement. And engagement is nothing but communication, right? So communicate to motivate, communicate to establish the culture, communicate to establish the relationship, right? And communicate in terms of compensation.